spending in the path of Allah, in the context of giving zakat and sadaqat, sometimes shaitan might create a fear in our heart. Shaitan will put a khawf in our heart, a fear in our heart. Don't give zakat. How can you spend $20,000 in zakat out of millions that you have? How can you give $10,000 sadaqah to a masjid? How can you give this? You're going to become a faqir. You helping a faqir will make you a faqir. This is what shaitan puts in our heart, and Allah talks about this in this ayah. This is in the third parah, verse number 268. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 268, Allah says, "Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum al-faqra." Shaitan threatens you. Shaitan puts the fear in your heart of al-faqra. Faqr means poverty. وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. And shaitan commands you to do immoral acts. Two things. Shaitan puts the fear of poverty in your heart, hence you don't give zakat, hence you don't donate, hence you don't help masajid, madaris, Islamic schools, communities, the fuqara, the masakin, you don't help them. Shaitan creates that fear in your heart. That's number one. Second thing, shaitan, he commands you to do evil deeds. That's the job of shaitan. So Allah is telling us, stay awake to this. That's not from Allah. That's not something that is good. Not a fact that's from shaitan, so be aware. On the other hand, Wallahu ya'idukum maghfiratan minhu fadla wa fadla. Allah Azza wa Jal promises you of maghfirat, forgiveness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises of favors and bounties. Yani, Allah says you give zakat, Allah will multiply it. Allah will rectify your heart, fix your heart, purify your heart by giving zakat. Allah says when you give sadaqat, your wealth is multiplied, difficulties are removed, and so reward. That's the promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will forgive you. So we should take the promise of Allah. Don't take the threat from shaitan. Take the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hassan al-Basri, one of the great saints of the past, time of Sahaba, where he's seen Sahaba, Tabi'un time. He says a very beautiful statement. He says, I read in one ayat, shaitan, he threatens you, he promises you of poverty in this ayat. Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum al-faqr. And then I read 90 places in the Quran where Allah promises you of rizq. Allah promises you and me of rizq, 90 places in the Quran. So how come we believe the one promise of shaitan and we leave the 90 promises of Allah Azza wa Jalla? Think about this. This very deep point he mentioned. There's a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rizq is min janib from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You giving zakat, you giving donation, helping on the masajid, the fuqara, this is actually benefit for you in this world and in the hereafter. And this is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't be scared. And know when you are scared, that's from shaitan. Spread this ayah to people so that people can be aware of this trap of shaitan. And I end off once, Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam, he spoke to a namla. Namla means an ant. Allah gave him that ability, mantiq. He was able to speak the language of animals as well. So he was speaking to the ant and told the ant, what is your risk for 1 year? The ant responds and says, it's just a grain, one grain, any piece of wheat. And then Sulaiman ﷺ said, I will feed you. So takes the ant, puts the fat ant inside a bowl, and keeps the ant there for a year. 1 year later, Sulaiman comes and sees that the ant is there, and the ant has eaten half of that grain. Then Sulaiman asks, why did you eat half? You said that Allah feeds you one grain, but why your risk of 1 year is one grain, but why'd you eat half? The ant responded. The ant said that before you put me inside this bottle, my tawakkul and the responsibility of my risk was upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I was not afraid and I would eat entirely. But the moment you took the responsibility of my risk, I was afraid that after 1 more year you'll forget about it. This is the iman of an ant. And what is our iman? We get scared of spending. We get scared of sponsoring. We get scared, and even those who want to pursue the path of knowledge, become ulama, their degrees are not like the accredited by the by the Board of Education, then we start to remember, don't do this, don't become hafiz, don't become poor. And then 10 years later, he becomes a big mufti. And then the same people that made fun of him are actually benefiting from him right now. The tables that flip, the risk is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us tawfiq to understand this, to have this firm conviction in Allah, and do not be fooled, and do not be deceived by shaitan. So, donate generously to Mashallah, inshallah. We'll have the irada, say inshallah. Take out 10%, 2.5% give your zakat, and then the remaining give to Mashallah, inshallah. Everyone